The views expressed by guests on the Living Chronic Faith podcast are not necessarily the views of Living Chronic Faith or of the host. This podcast does not constitute or replace medical advice. Please consult with your physician before altering your healthcare plan. Hi, I'm Allie, and I'm Living Chronic Faith. Thanks for stopping by, and welcome to the podcast. The name says it all. I believe that our faith has to be as chronic as our symptoms, and this podcast is a safe space for us to explore meaningful ways to live our lives according to that faith. It's my prayer that after this episode, you will be more encouraged, more educated, and more equipped to live out your chronic faith. Today, we are joined by a panel of women who live with different diagnoses. But what they all have in common is that God has transformed a challenging reality into an incredible opportunity to encourage others. Shontel Jackson Taylor is a Christian life coach and a Christian care counselor, and the founder and director of Purpose in the Pain Ministries, a women's chronic pain support nonprofit ministry that provides hope and encouragement to women with chronic physical and emotional pain. Bleu Lashell is the visionary CEO of Empowered Radiance, a community aimed at empowering women to step forward with renewed self-assurance after having risen from the challenges of coping with alopecia, divorce, and 4 years of depression herself. Sierra Brown is a Christian health and wellness coach and founder of Melanin Well & Co. She specifically helps Black women of faith all over the world create dream relationships with food, movement, and God by breaking up with dieting for good, embracing nourishment wholeheartedly, and making health and wellness second nature. And our esteemed moderator for the day is Living Chronic Faith board member Stephanie Fields. So please go ahead and welcome all of these amazing ladies to the stage in the comments.
Hello and welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see all of you beautiful ladies. I'm going to serve as moderator today, and we're going to kick this off, and I'm going to try to stay on schedule. One of the things that happens when we learn about a diagnosis, it's not something that necessarily happens from birth. So then you have your life to kind of deal with it and make those changes and adjustments. So tell us, our first question, and how did your symptoms or diagnoses disrupt your life and future plans? Shontel, let's start with you.
Yes, hello everyone. I would say when I was diagnosed, I was in my mid-20s. And so I was actually diagnosed after 2 years of experiencing foreign and excruciating pain. I was in the military during that time, and my plan was to be in the military for 20 years, at least 20 years and retire. I love the military, but I was actually medically discharged after my diagnosis. So that was one disruptive change that I had to go through. In addition to, just the regular lifestyle changes, and then it comes with different relationships, right? Because the things that I used to say yes to with the physical disabilities and limitations, I couldn't say yes to anymore. Maybe one RSVP, it was yes today, but maybe next week my body was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. So it was really just the lifestyle changes, and at that time being discharged from the military, which was a different plan than what I had. But, in hindsight, it was a pivot. It wasn't just a pause.
Yep, and we're definitely going to get to that in a minute. How about you, Miss Sierra? Tell us about it.
Oh, I think for me, it disrupted me two different separate times because I kind of had two different diagnoses that did two different things at two different times. So for me, I had been a very healthy person my entire life, like probably everybody else in this room. And I was a college athlete. Like I had been trained from the age of 3 to play basketball. I had a full ride scholarship. In my senior year, I got a blood clot in my kidney. And that was the first diagnosis that took basketball away from me, that led to depression. I gained 50 to 60 pounds during the healing process of that blood clot. And that's what led me to do what I do now. But about a year ago, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. And that has completely rocked my world because as a health coach, our appearance is is a big part of what we do. Now, that has never really been a part of my business since maybe year 3. I gave up before and after pictures. I became weight neutral. I utilized Hayes principles, but it's still really hard to show up knowing that not everybody who views my content believes what I believe. And so for a long time, it was like really trusting God that some people are going to look at you and notice that, you no longer are very lean. You no longer have abs. You've gained 40 pounds since you were diagnosed. But they are hearing your testimony and your story, and they're getting to see you show up. And that's way more inspiring than them watching you do all those weightlifting videos and, your abs and everything else that you had, a decade ago. You are experiencing the lived experience that a lot of the women who follow you are experiencing. And I never would have thought that God would use it the way that he has, but he's literally, while it disrupted my life, I woke up one day and as somebody who professionally teaches people how to take care of themselves, I was doing everything right. And I was waking up every day and felt like I hadn't slept in 2 days. And I was eating all the same things that I was eating. And it was like I was gaining, it felt like 5-10 pounds every 2 weeks. And so for God to use that and to help me see, hey, I'm going to answer the prayers you've been praying over your business for years through this diagnosis. And so I need you to find a way to get to acceptance and trust me with all your heart. So that's how it disrupted for me.
All right. Ms. Bleu, tell us about this disruption in your life. How did it happen?
Hello, everyone. I am Bleu Lashell. I have alopecia areata, and it's an autoimmune disease which attacks the hair follicles, and we are celebrating alopecia awareness this month. So how it disrupted my life is when I received the diagnosis, I had always envisioned myself as a confident, stylish woman, but through the diagnosis of having alopecia, it really made my self-esteem become very low. I didn't feel like I fit in. And also by me being a pastor's daughter, we have to be in the forefront and always, have a certain image. And I can remember one time when I went to the salon, I had to take off my wig. And y'all know everybody be staring at you in the salon. And I felt so embarrassed. I felt low. I felt sad, and it got so bad. The condition got so bad where now I asked my hairstylist, could she just set me up a private appointment in the back where nobody was able to see me? And even to a point where that I remember, one time when I started going to church, wearing the wig, and sometimes, when we rushing, we don't have that lace front position and where it needs to be. And, when I saw people laughing at me and picking at me, and that also made me not even want to go to church anymore. So, that was basically, one of my experiences that I had that actually really disrupted my life living with alopecia.
Okay. Well, thank you, ladies, for sharing that. Our presenter just told us that, when you have purpose and meaning, that's what keeps you going and keeps you driving and actual help you in your health journey and all of that. So let's get into it. So how did you take this diagnosis, this disruption, and turn it into something that now is your platform to support others? Sierra, you kind of started it with us last time. Tell us about it.
Okay. So I think for me, about 2 months after I started feeling different, like I started to notice symptoms, and I had spent too much trying to hack myself, because it's like I literally help people every day fix those type of issues. And I took it to God. His answer was to rest. It was during a period of time where I had these big goals, and like I felt more motivated, like mentally than ever. And so I was like, rest, that can't be right. Like, I feel like I'm hearing you wrong, Lord. And so I remember one day I went to a small group with my church, and something happened within that group that affirmed that that's really what the Holy Spirit was telling me to do. And what I realized in that moment is he had been telling me to rest for a really long time. Before I'd ever experienced my first symptom, I had been hearing that message and ignoring it. He was trying to prepare me. And so once I got to a place of acceptance, I realized okay, in order for me to show up, in order for me to, continue my walk, I have to redefine what health means to me. And once God gave me that word, I realized that every woman has to redefine what health means to them every single season of their life. Your circumstances change, your health changes, your symptoms change, and you are constantly redefining what health is to you. And when he gave me that word, I was able to create new programs. I was able to change the messaging of my content. I completely changed the messaging of my podcast, and the reception has been it's been insane. So it was like he took what I was going through, then he gave me the message to help myself, and then he flipped that message and helped me package it in a way that it can help other people. And it's really been amazing.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, Miss Bleu, tell us, how did you take that situation and turn it into a platform where you can help others?
Well, for me, let's see. So how I was able to take this platform and help myself as well as others, it was actually during a period of time where I had got a divorce and it had left me in a state of depression, and I relocated from my hometown and to live with my parents. And during that time, I basically went on a really deep journey of self-acceptance, and I began to dive deeply into my past, undressing unresolved emotional issues in my childhood that I never spoke about, by forgiving myself first and also forgiving others. I took back my power, because a lot of times we give people permission to hurt us, to talk to us, to say things to us, and that doesn't resonate with our spirit. And through that journey, I was able to, reprogram my mind, reprogram the negative thoughts, and unlearn to relearn some things that I was taught about, just about hair, because I told women and I told people, a lot of times when you're out here in this world and society, most men, they would like women with long hair. So it was this big thing with that, if she doesn't have long hair, straight hair, or, natural hair, I don't want her. Like it was like we had this negative belief about a woman being bald, but it was beyond our control, dealing with our autoimmune system. So I basically went on a self-healing journey, and I healed my inner child. I healed that little girl. Once I was able to heal my little girl, my inner child, and tell her that she was okay and that she was safe, let me tell you something. Everything changed. My world began to change. I began to drive in my car, and I look in that mirror and I'd be like, girl, you got it going on. Girl, I love you so much. You are so amazing. Girl, you bad. And every time I do that, it's like that joy and that excitement, that feeling of relief and confidence. Let me know, hey, listen, you're on the right path. So that's how I was able to use this journey, this testimony, to bless other people. And when I took my wig off, July the 13th of 2017, it's like my confidence went to another level. And it's so amazing that Sierra was talking about this and talking about health. I like to work out. So I use fitness to help me regain my confidence. I was on that track running, and I heard the Lord say, take it off. And I'm like, God, you playing. Nah, I just know you talking to me. He was like, take it off. I was like, I just know you don't want me to take this wig off. He was like, yes, daughter, rest in me and take it off. So when I went home to my mom's house, my parents' house, and I told my mom about it, I said, Mom, I said, I heard God say, take it off. She said, well, you're going to be okay. Just shave your head and just take it off. And the minute I did that, the next morning, I went to work. I was working at Kimball, and I walked down that aisle, and there was a married couple that was looking at me. And they stared at me from the time I walked in that building until the time I got to the front of the counter. And they say, oh my God, you're so beautiful. And they say, we love your ball. They was like, why did you do this? And I was like, oh, I have alopecia. Like that. And they was like, oh my God, well, you wear it well. And I said, thank you. So I've been on this journey for so long, and it feels amazing. I mean, and it's just so amazing how God will take something that we thought that were going to be harmful to us and turn it out to be such a blessing.
Yes. All right, Shontel, tell us about it.
That's so good. I'm so inspired already.
Yes.
Yes, it's so good. Thank you for sharing, ladies. So, during that time when I was diagnosed, like I said, I had gone through, excruciating pain for 2 years, and then I was diagnosed in 2018, and it took me to a very dark place, a very, depressed place because I didn't know what it was. I was like, "What is this?" I had never heard of endometriosis. And then right after being diagnosed with endometriosis and before being separated from the military, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And then soon after that, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue. And so at this time, I didn't have a relationship with the Lord. I was just out here seeking things, like Googling and trying to find anything and anyone that resonated with what I was going through for hope and comfort to know that I wasn't an anomaly and I wasn't alone. It wasn't until I came into relationship with Christ and knowing who I am and finding out like who my true identity is, right? And like knowing that I'm not defined by those things. That's when I started to like step into purpose. And right along the same time of that, I went through some discipleships at church. So I went through, an 18-month discipleship, and I went through another 9-month discipleship. And in that, I couldn't see what God was doing. I was just being obedient, but He was preparing me for ministry. He was preparing me for launching what was a blog at the time. He said, "You're going to tell your story through purpose and the pain." And I was actually at a conference, one of TD Jake's conferences, and I just felt so like hopeless. I was like, "Lord, like, why am I here?" Everyone has all these things going on. I was with my best friend supporting her. She was a vendor and selling her books. And I was like, what is my purpose? Like, I went through all this stuff and like, no, you're not going to use me. And it was in that moment while I was there that He gave me purpose in the pain. And it just started at the blog. And even during that time, I didn't even believe, right? Like what He was telling me that I was going to do. And He was like, just share your story, just share your story. And then a year later, it became a nonprofit. And that's really just how, it began. He was like, nothing's wasted, right? Like God can use all things for His purpose and for His glory. And that's how it was birthed.
Okay. Can you share a little bit more about us? What you do in your nonprofit, and how do you help others?
Absolutely. So, Purpose in the Pain is a chronic pain support ministry. And so it's for both physical and emotional chronic pain. As we know, when we endure something physically, inevitably, it's going to have some type of emotional pain on us, some emotional toll. And during the time when I was going through what I was going through, I was actually going through simultaneously an emotional relationship that took a lot out of me as well. And so we just encourage women, we walk alongside them that are going through physical and emotional pain. We support them through one-on-ones. As Allison said, I'm a Christian life coach. We also have monthly meetings called Solid Space, and ultimately we want them to know that they are not alone. I just go back to the time in which I was seeking the things on the internet, and the Lord is like, you're going to use this space to empower women, to let them know that they're not alone, to let them know that they're not defined by their diagnosis, and ultimately pointing them back to Jesus, because He is our hope and He is, the way.
Absolutely. Miss Sierra, you mentioned that you have a blog. So tell us about that and the topics that we can, find there if we, join in. You're muted.
Thank you for that.
There you go.
I actually have a podcast. My
Okay.
podcast is called Melanin Well Living. Technically, I guess I have a Substack that's associated with the podcast, so I guess you could call that a blog as well. But my podcast really is all about literally redefining your health, but it's also about the interdependence between all of the different dimensions of your health, and really just meeting yourself where you are, and making sure all of the different dimensions of your health, your physical, your mental, your emotional, your spiritual, they all live in harmony together, and that God is the center of it, and the Holy Spirit leads at every single plan. I've been doing this for about 10 years now. And before that, I was in social work for 8 years. And so I got to work with a lot of different types of demographics. I was a therapist before I do what I do now. And so I saw a lot of people over the course of 5-6 years who were like For example, they want to work out more, or I want to eat more vegetables. I want to do all of these things. And they come up with all these plans. And, when we come up for plans for our businesses, we let the Holy Spirit lead the way. When we come up with plans for our family, we let the Holy Spirit lead the way. But when it comes to our health and wellness, we typically let diet culture lead the way. And that's just a very worldly approach to our nutrition, to movement, to our mindset. And so what you can find on my podcast is like, God is the center of every episode, but I'm teaching you some type of habit and just like and teaching you how to allow the Holy Spirit to lead you through that process.
Beautiful. Miss Bleu, tell us more specifically about your platform and what you do other than just showing up in a space and just looking fabulous.
Fabulous.
Thank you, ladies. Back at you too as well. Well, what I do is I have a platform where I created a space. The name of my group is Empowered Radiance. Empowered Radiance, and I touch on many different areas, not only with dealing with alopecia, but women dealing with depression, single moms, and I create that space where that they can come and just talk with me. I do have a one-on-one coach sessions where I'm guiding them through an 8-week course to regain their confidence, just talk about areas that they cannot share with their family, friends, or even marriage, and just helping them to get back to where they need to be. And that's through fitness, health and wellness as well. I'm with Sierra. I'm big on health and wellness because I feel that when we're healthy, our mind is healthy too as well. When our body is healthy, our mind is healthy. We feel good. We have that confidence, and once you feel motivated, you can actually encourage and inspire other people because they will want to know what it is that you're doing. You were here in one place, well, how did you get there? So that's what I do. And you're more than welcome to find me on all social media platforms too as well, at under Bleu Lashell or empoweredradiance.life. That's where you can find me as well too.
Beautiful, beautiful. And in this space of, everybody's talked about, how they've taken their platform and used it to help and support others while you're still dealing with your own personal challenges, daily challenges. Tell us, how do you prioritize your own self-care so that you can continue to give and to give and to give the way you do to others? And anybody who wants to start, I'll let you start. But tell us how you take care of yourself so that you can continue to give and outpour to others.
I can share. I basically, what I do is I do things that helps me to recharge. Basically, being in nature, being out in nature. I would actually go skating. Those are the things that help me to recharge. I love journaling, reading books. A couple of books that I have read that helps me to be able to recharge, which is The 4 Agreements, Be Impeccable with Your Words. Now I'm reading a book called The Body That Keeps Its Score. So that is also that I'm going to get into. I listen to a lot of podcasts, Les Brown, Lisa Nichols. I have a lot of different resources that I use, but most so when I feel overwhelmed, I just learn how to be. I learn how to sit and just be and not move. I learn how to unplug, which is turn everything off. And that's how I'm able to recharge. That's how I'm able to find out, okay, what is my next assignment? So when you're sitting and you're not busy and you're just sitting there, you're able to hear and you're able to, listen and find out what is the next step, what is the next assignment. Because the most of the time, by us being in this field, as ladies on this platform, we give, 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 give. So we have to take a break and recharge.
Yes.
And by me being an empath, I feel everything, emotions. I take on people's energy. So even with that, I had to learn how to set boundaries. That is another important. Setting boundaries, not being available so much, because I was one that you call me up, oh yes, girl, I'm right there. I'm yes, 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 yes. And that a lot of times got me in trouble because people didn't keep their end of their agreements, and that left me broken, depression, and sometimes that thing would set me back for a whole month because of me so emotionally attached. And also I learned how to not expect everything, not be attached to people, places, and things, because I'm that person. I'm always available for you. I'm gonna be, but a lot of times when we expect that, we don't receive it. So now you're back to that stage one. So that's how I learned to recharge. Nature, reading books. I love to eat, so I'm gonna go buy me, get me something food, anything that resonates with your inner child. So we have to learn to listen to what that inner child wants to do, what you're telling to do. Do that. That will help you set boundaries and get where and stay on that right path. Thank you.
All right.
I think for me, discipline is really important. And I think that sometimes we hear that word and it's like, ooh. But when I say discipline, what I'm really referencing is I got to walk it like I talk it. Like the things that I teach my clients to do, I have to do myself. And so one of the ways that I teach my clients how to make changes is I help them to build sustainable routines. And so I have a few different like morning, afternoon, evening frameworks that I typically build out of to teach clients. And I do the exact same thing for myself. So for me, those, I know that you were just talking about boundaries. For me, my routines are kind of like preset boundaries. And so I have a morning, a God-centered morning, afternoon, and evening routine that I kind of I'm pretty disciplined with those things. So for example, I have those things set. So if somebody is like, hey, I can't make a session, can you do it at 1? Sorry, I can't. And I don't have to explain why, but I have time with God scheduled at that time. And so all of my routines are both God-centered and health and wellness promoting. So for me, honoring God by creating that space for those routines and holding other people accountable for like respecting that space for me is really huge. But it's also within all of those different containers and practicing discipline and self-control. It's also meeting myself with compassion and gentleness and just making sure I'm walking by the Spirit. You know, she was also talking about how we have to be listening. And I think for me, everything that I do, including my health and wellness, has to be led by walking with the Spirit. So if I'm not doing that, number one, which is happening within my routines, then I know something is off. And so while I have those routines in place, if I start missing them, if I start feeling weird, I have something that I can return back to. I have that foundation to turn back to. And I think that that's what's most important to me.
All right. Miss Shontel.
Yeah, so I actually echo what both Blue and Sierra said. Definitely first, taking all the plans and all things to God, right? Because we have to allow Him to create the day, create that space. I've also learned to be like very cognizant of the things that will send me into maybe a flare up or send me into a place of stress. And definitely creating boundaries around them to alleviate even getting close to that, right? Because, we all hear the term, if we're not well for ourselves, we cannot be well for anyone else. I think it's very important, to create boundaries around that and just be very aware of what that looks like and when we're getting there. So I've learned to recognize that, right? I've also put we put things on all other things on our calendars. So why not put a space for rest? Why not put the space for where I'm going to go out and I'm going to take this walk? Like Blue said, I enjoy walking. And sometimes, if I have a little break at work or something like that, I'm just going to grab my phone, put on some worship music and go take a walk around the block, even if it's just a small walk, right? But being outside, getting the vitamin D that we need, getting that natural lighting that we need. So I just try to, put spaces in my life for those things so that I can be well for myself and be well for other people. But definitely boundaries. Boundaries are so important.
Yes. And in this space, because it's a new normal for you, you have to train people and teach them how to treat you now in this new space. And a lot of that comes with, yes, you have to set boundaries that may have not been there before. As we said, that used to be that person I did, they can call on you, but now I got to take care of me too. So yes, I have to set healthy boundaries so that I can continue to give and be all that I can and show up in every space that God needs me to show up in. All right, we have one last question because we know that hindsight is 20/20. So, last question. If you could go back in time to that place where you were diagnosed, because we have some people who are, just starting to navigate this space. They may not have, as you said, may not have had the person, you may not have had God, you may not have had somebody to talk to or somebody who would understand it. So what advice would you give or encouragement would you give to yourself back at that point where you were first diagnosed? Shontel, let's start with you.
I think I would give myself two things. The first thing I would say is, girl, run to Jesus. Because like I told you guys, during that time, I was seeking the like other things. And man, like once I came into relationship with him, things just got better. Like, right? Things just got better. So the first thing I would tell myself is run to Jesus. The second thing I would encourage myself by just affirming, right, that this is not the end all be all. This does not define you. These conditions do not define you. You know, you are still fearfully and wonderfully made with intentionality by our Creator. And that's how I would encourage myself.
All right. Miss Blue, back. What would you say? How would you encourage yourself?
Well, I would tell myself that it's okay to feel sad and frustrated. It is okay. You don't have to rush it. Hair loss can be a devastating experience, but it doesn't define your worth. Remember that you are strong and capable, and you will find a way to overcome this challenge. And how you will do that? Through faith, through seeking God, through honoring where you are, admitting, identifying the problem, and we're going to find a solution.
Okay.
Yes, you can't stay there.
Absolutely. And
Thank
Miss
you.
Sierra.
Oh, what they said, times two. But also that he's going to use it all. He's going to use it all. It all has a purpose. And not only is he going to use it, but he is going to sustain you through every up, every down, every twist and turn. He is going to be absolutely 100% right there. He is going, I think sustain would be like the main thing that I would tell her. And I think that I would also tell her that the reality is that you can feel safe in your body while healing. I think that there was a period of my time through this journey where the idea of healing felt really unsafe, because I had just gotten to a place of acceptance that like I had gotten this diagnosis, and I was just like, oh, I barely can accept this. I can't, like, I have found something that works for me. I can manage this, but I don't know if I can manage my life if this changes. And so get to that place of acceptance, but also invite God into that fear. You can believe two things, but two things can be true. You can also be healing, and you can also accept where you are, and you can believe that God is a healer, and that he can literally heal you from the absolute inside out, while also accepting that you have this diagnosis. But you have to invite him into the middle of that, because that's not human type logic, honey. Yeah. Like that's spirit stuff, and you're going to have to go to the spirit for that.
Wonderful. Well, Shontel, Sierra, Bleu, thank you all for coming and sharing your stories. Thank you all for the work that you do to help support others along this journey. In the chat, please give it up for our ladies that have come here, and please make sure you check them out in their different areas where they work. I think Miss Allison might share that again with us. We have www.purposeinthepain.com, www.melaninwell.com, and www.empoweredradiance.life. Check these wonderful ladies out, support them, and we thank you so much for being here. God bless.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you want to stay up to date on what's happening in the LCF community, or for more faith-first chronic diagnosis content, please visit our website at livingchronicfaith.com. And while you're there, consider registering for membership free of charge. Also, check us out on Instagram and YouTube at Living Chronic Faith. Be sure to follow and subscribe. Remember that I'm praying for you. Yes, you. And until next time, always expect great things. Talk to you soon.